Hey everybody, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm Dave Rubin, and we've got two great guests for you this week, Miss Wendy Liebman and Mr. Paul Case, and this is YouTube, so let's get right to it. Obviously, the big story of last week and what's going to be the big story for the next couple months is the Boston Marathon terror attack and all the fallout after that. And we're going to be dealing with trials and just a whole mess of stuff. But I wanted to focus on the media angle here because that, in a weird way, became a bigger story than the actual attacks themselves. So CNN was the one that really took it on the chin, so to speak. Let's jump in and watch a little bit of their coverage.
I was essentially told we have one person in focus. That's our focus right now. We're going to try to apprehend that suspect that they did concede. They've clearly identified. We are now told the arrest has been made.
I shouldn't say this on TV, but this is a good time when TV unfolds. Wait, maybe faster. So there is a difference between the identification, which everyone can confirm now, right? Everyone is saying it. So this may look very different in about an hour if we learn that there has been no arrest. Right. But the good news is that at least there's an identification of an individual. So
well,
this
a
is
suspect
something
can be taken into custody without an arrest.
Right. So this is all the terminology. But
I have actually three separate sources, but two that are very highly placed and close to the investigation that have just told me that there has been no arrest. And in fact, a suspect has not been identified by name yet, that they have they're looking for someone, but they don't have anybody in custody yet, and they don't have an identification.
Okay, so we basically had 4 days of that, reporting one thing and then finding out it wasn't true an hour later. Or the big thing was, we don't want to speculate, and now we will speculate. So my first question for you guys is, has the media just lost control of breaking news altogether? In an age of Twitter, can the media operate in the old school way that we think it used to?
Well, didn't Dewey win the presidency one year over Truman? Like, remember when they ran that newspaper?
He did, at least for a day in one paper, right?
Right. I think people are always rushing to have the conclusion because we need answers really quickly. So maybe it's a game of telephone and people get the wrong information.
Yeah. Does it seem worse now, though, because of Twitter? Because everyone can do it. It's not like a newspaper is going to run a story and that's the only way we're going to get it.
But look
now
at
we're all doing
the woman who said, I probably shouldn't say this on television.
Yeah.
So automatically
Right.
she was like, I'm just guessing. And she also said, you know, in 2 hours this might change. She basically said, I don't really know what I'm saying. I'm just going to say it just in case.
Yeah.
So, you know, she is rushing. She looks so eager.
Yeah.
We did it first, we did it first, we did it first before somebody tweeted it or before it was on Facebook or, you know.
Right.
You can see it in her face,
first.
right? And everyone else is just on board for that.
Yeah, so partly it's that they all want to be first, but how much of it do you think is just like this endless ego running? You know what I mean? They're on TV, they want to say something, and they want the clip that's going to then go viral about who broke the story. Like, it's just pure ego, it seems like.
Well,
Go ahead.
ego and advertising. They want people to tune in to their station so that they can have better advertising.
When you break it first, then everyone's going to trust you more. But I mean, you're right, it is ego. Like, most people who tweet shouldn't even be tweeting anyway. They're just, it's all ego. It's all ego driven. Who cares what you have to say necessarily? Why do you have to make that said?
I care what you have to say.
Well, I care what you have to say too, but my point is though,
Thank you.
this whole
likewise.
idea that what you have to say is as important or more important than someone else. Yeah. And that clip is an example of that too. You know, it's like, it's just so fast for no reason when really, just calm down a minute.
Well, one of the things I kept thinking as I was watching all the coverage is how, you know, something horrific happened and obviously deserved a lot of attention, but then immediately we forget every other bit of news that we've been talking about endlessly. So for a week, North Korea didn't have nukes anymore. You know what I mean? The day before, that was 18 stories on Drudge, we're going to get nuked. And then for a week, we didn't hear about it. So it's part of the problem that the news cycle just keeps us in this constant state of fear and wanting more information. And
well, there was an earthquake in China one of the days where over 100 people died, and it got a little blip, and that's it.
Well, the good news is you can just turn it off.
Can you, though?
Yes.
It seems like you can.
I did.
Yeah.
And I followed Twitter a little bit, and I got bits and pieces from trusted news sources. You know, it's like, depends who you follow, too. And you know this, you teach history, don't you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So, I mean, it really is like, who do you believe?
Right.
Yeah. Is there also a problem with, I was watching CNN and, they're all, it's like, you got Wolf and he's so stiff, and then everybody has their little, John King seems a little drunk sometimes. But one of the things I was watching is Anderson Cooper, who's like the darling of everything. Is there a problem that he has a daytime talk show, although I guess since it's been canceled, but it's not off the air yet, which just seems a little bizarre to me. But it's like he's talking about Snooki and Honey Boo Boo during the day, and then at night he's talking about this serious stuff, and it kind of seems a little ridiculous. Does that seem legit to you?
Kind of like me being here talking like I know something and then telling jokes about my hair.
Yeah.
At Flappers.
Good point. Touche, as they
There's
say.
two sides of that, though, too. In a way that there is something like, why should I? You're talking about Honey Boo Boo. What do you really know about this? But there's also something I think that makes people comfortable. That they're like, oh, we know you because you talked about Honey Boo Boo earlier today. What else is he saying? So it depends on the viewer, I suppose.
Yeah.
The source. Consider the source.
Yeah. I guess we want them to all be better and not be so drunk and. Well, that's the other thing. Poor Jake Tapper. They got him up at like 3 in the morning, and then the guy has to be on air for 6 hours, and then we expect every word to come out of his mouth to be perfect.
Is he the one who did the obscenities right away and got fired? Oh, do you know what I mean?
That was the local. That was the local story. Yeah, if you guys didn't hear about that, there was a guy in North Dakota on NBC affiliate who literally the first 2 words out of his mouth in his career on camera were "fucking shit."
Can
fucking
we swear
shit.
on this?
We can say
Okay.
we can say it. He said "fucking shit" and they fired him immediately. Although I was watching
Was
the
he
tape.
nervous?
Well, he was nervous. Did you? I mean,
I
He was
didn't
trying
see the
to
tape.
pronounce someone's name, and I think he got flustered. Like he couldn't say, and he was like, "Fucking shit." And the woman who was the co-anchor was like, and she's tried to talk, and all of a sudden you could just see her give up, and she was like,
but talk about
"Tell us about yourself."
getting fired on your first day on the job.
Well, Sherry O'Terry, when she was on Saturday Night Live, one of her earlier appearances, she said shit, and that got her all this attention.
Did she get fined?
I don't know if she got fined. It's so funny because they find people in different professions, like in sports, but they don't fine us.
Well, and
Right? As
when they
comedians.
find people for entertainment purposes, the guy, I know nothing about sports, so I think it was a Red Sox game where somebody this week said something about like, we're fucking Boston or whatever.
David Ortiz.
And they're not fining him because they said his heart was with Boston or something like that. It's like,
Well,
how do you make those rules?
It came from the right place after this whole thing. All right. Well, the point is, CNN. Even if
He
you're
spelled it with a PH.
exactly, even if your coverage was fucking shit, nobody said it on air, and I guess that's the important thing. Bonobos.com is the official outfitter of the Rubin Report. Use code TRR20 for 20% off your first purchase.